Dr Michelle Zeibots. I hope I pronounced correctly? Yeah, good. Dr Zeibots is Research Director at the Institute for Sustainable Futures at UTS, as well as being a Senior Lecturer in Transportation Engineering at UTS. So Michelle is basically a transport analyst and planner specialising in sustainable urban transport systems. She's frequently consulted by the media for her expert knowledge on urban roadway development, traffic congestion, and more sustainable ways of transporting people around the large city. Michelle gained a PhD in the area of induced traffic growth, a topic she can expand on tonight as it's directly related to the Westconnex project. Also with Michelle tonight is Matt Hounsell from Eco Transit. Formerly from Eco Transit, which is a public transport advocacy group. Thank you.
I'm very lucky to work with Matt Hounsell at the Institute for Sustainable Futures, so he's a member of staff there as well. What I thought I would do is briefly go over the different stages of Westconnex, given what we know about the configurations, and just talk about what some of the likely outcomes will be in terms of the big picture traffic view. So what I want to focus on is not so much the local impacts, but what the broader rationale for this motorway would be. Why is it happening? What are going to be the benefits, supposedly, for Sydney? And therefore, we can then begin to understand what some of the impacts are locally, and whether or not those impacts are actually worth people like us living with and putting up with. Okay, so that's the approach for tonight. So stage one is the M4 expansion of the existing section that is only 2 lanes in each direction, and then there is also a tunnel section that comes that extends from that, and then dumps traffic out onto Parramatta Road at a position near Ashfield rather than at Strathfield. It also has a tunnel section that then links up with the the Waddle Street and then into the West City link. That's right. That then leads into the Anzac over Anzac Bridge. Now the problem with that configuration, let's say they were only going to build that, what would be the outcomes? The outcomes would be that the expansion of the existing section, which is only 2 lanes in each direction, would create an opportunity for additional traffic. So it will induce more traffic on that link. And we know this because this is what's happened in the previous occasions when that link has either been added to, extended, or the existing road has been widened. So I'll talk briefly about what that is. Induced traffic growth is additional cars on the road network as a whole. Okay, so when you increase road capacity, you reduce the amount of travel time, and because trips become more attractive because they're a shorter period of time to carry out standard trips, it becomes more attractive to some people, and so some people decide to travel more than what they previously had. So you'll often hear people say things like, if you expand the road capacity, traffic volumes will grow to fill the available road space. So that is all true, and when we go and look at the detailed data, as folks like myself have, that's what we find. Now, we also find that traffic redistributes from right across the network. So in previous occasions when the M4 was improved, traffic that had been using Windsor Road and Richmond Road, which is 20 kilometres away in the north, some of that actually transferred or reassigned, as we call it, to the M4. And similarly down south, on arterials like Elizabeth Drive and Bringelly Road, they were also attracting more traffic. What happens on those other roads over a relatively short period of time is that their traffic volumes then grow as well. So you get what we call second order induced traffic growth. So if all you do on an urban transport network is increase the road capacity in order to reduce the road traffic congestion, nothing gets fixed in the medium, even the short term. Okay? So that is true for all parts of Sydney. So back to the specifics of the M4. With the expansion of the existing part, that will induce more traffic growth, and so the bottleneck and the big traffic congestion hotspot that we see at Strathfield will now be moved down to Ashfield. What will also happen is that with the tunnel and pushing more traffic into that Anzac area, that will, I don't think it can exacerbate the traffic congestion that is already there too much, but it can, and I think should, displace some of the traffic that's coming in from the other directions, from the north-south direction. Now, those roads are all very heavily congested. In an ideal world, what good transport planners and traffic engineers would do if they were building roads, and I don't think good ones would build the type of road that has been built, but if you were wanting to connect that existing section in the M4, what you would also do is then look at the public transport additions that you could put in that area to shift some of the road traffic onto the public transport network. And that is that's the key way in which you actually tackle traffic congestion. So what's going to happen there, we're going to just move the bottleneck. If we look at the M5 very briefly, and it's still very unclear to me as to what the hell it is they're actually doing there. There are a lot of ramps, it's very unusual, it's lots of activity and concrete flying everywhere. There are tunnels that have quite a big capacity, but they just end in goodness only knows what. What's going on there? All right, well, I think what they're doing there is they're setting that up to try and they've done this before, to then try and make it more inevitable that something along the F6 corridor, which is the big southern motorway, so it's trying to make that more inevitable. If they only build what they're talking about at the moment, I think what we're looking at presently is another cross-city tunnel scenario, in that a lot of money will be spent on building a motorway that really doesn't generate a lot of additional traffic. Okay, do you want me to stop right now? Because I'm not happy to do that. I'll try and wind it up quickly. All right, so that's stage 2. Stage 3, which is what this community needs to be very concerned about. We need to be concerned about all of it because we're not NIMBYs, we're good citizens and we care about the big picture. We realise that we're a part of that big picture. The stage 3 section, what I think the outcome will be, and this is very hard because we don't have the details for the on and off ramps, but what I think that would do is that would induce a great deal of induced traffic growth. So it would then provide the extensions of the M5 sections. It would potentially take traffic from the south that is using the eastern distributor and transfer it over to this axis through here. That would then free up capacity for traffic coming off the M5 to go along the eastern distributor. So that's like doing a switcheroo, a do-si-do type thing. But the point of that is that it generates a lot more traffic through here. So generally the network will have more traffic on it. That's the end game with stages 1, 2 and 3 when they're all stuck together. Is that a good outcome? No, I don't think it is. So you wouldn't go and spend 17, 18, 20, $25 billion, whatever it's going to end up being, 30 billion possibly with all of this. You wouldn't go and spend it on these motorways in the current configuration that they are. Not if you are concerned about the transport and traffic outcome. You would go and do this if, however, you were wanting to generate some very large construction projects, because there are people in the construction sector who like to have very large construction projects and who aren't very concerned about whether or not they're meaningful for the community and taxpayers who will be funding this.